Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Olivia Rodrigo and the Lil Uzi Vert album bomb, and this, it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. This is the sort of album bomb week that I actually usually like. A big album that nevertheless causes relatively minor damage in the scope of things, one that I've actually already reviewed in full, and also isn't the only story of the week, so there's a chance that those who leave when they see album bomb episodes might actually stick around. Now granted, said album bomb is from Lil Uzi Vert, and that comes with its own frustrations, but hey, I'll take what I can get with this. But again, they are not the only story here, and possibly not even the biggest story, because we gotta go to our top 10, and a brand new song debuting at number 1, Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo. Now, we'll be talking about the song itself much later on, but it's here on frankly ridiculous streaming, strong sales, and a radio push that really hit the ground running. It's legit impressive, but it probably will not hold the top spot into next week. No, that's going back to Last Night by Morgan Wallen, now at number 2, and in this case it's probably more due to inertia. The streaming might lag slightly, but with such a radio margin, unless Olivia Rodrigo makes a frankly unprecedented radio run, I don't think she'll have enough to hold the number 1. Sadly, that doesn't open up a door for Fast Car by Luke Combs here either at number 3. It might also be on one hell of a radio run, but it lags just enough on streaming that it can't quite hurdle that distance. And it's not like this opens up any doors for Calm Down by Rima and Selena Gomez at number 4. It lags on streaming way too much, and while it dominates radio, that momentum seems to be running out, although not quite as fast as Flowers by Miley Cyrus at number 5, which has finally just started tipping into outright freefall. Then we have All My Life by Lil Durk featuring J. Cole at number 6. Looks like it's reached the limits of its radio this week, and streaming is starting to tip over as well, and that opens up the door for 2 more new songs in our top 10. Well, okay, not precisely new. The first one's Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift at number 7, because radio and streaming are now fully on board in force, and the second is Fuck You Mean by Gunna up to number 8 thanks to running up that streaming margin, even if the radio is really not touching it. Now this bowls past Karma by Taylor Swift and Ice Spice at number 9. Radio is still stable, but that's pretty much it. And then finally there's Favorite Song by 2C at number 10, which is also now in freefall across the board. This seems like the time for new music to sweep in, folks. Batten your hatches, strap in. And it gets more interesting when we take a look at our losers and our dropouts, of which in the latter category, there are quite a few big ones here. Now, having clinched their year-end list spots for 2023, we got Thank God by Kane and Caitlin Brown, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen, and Players by Coi Leray. Hey, I didn't say it was all good news, frankly I'm just happy they're gone. And what might actually fall just short is PRC by Peso Pluma and Nakamura Kano, although ICU by Coco Jones was also knocked out, having never quite gotten the traction that it really needed. Now the losers are much easier to categorize, mostly because a bunch came off the debut from last week, like Barbie World by Ice Spice, Nicki Minaj, and Aqua at 35, or a slew of losses for Peso Pluma's album bomb with Lady Gaga with Gabita Ballesteros and Junior H at 48, Luna with Junior H at 59, and Rubicon at 77. While we're here, might as well include Bye at 61. But he actually held up better than Young Thug did, with the only debut of his that actually survived was Oh You Went with Drake, and even that fell to 56. Then we got the continued losers. Dial Drunk by Noah Khan fell to 98. Apparently there's a Post Malone remix coming for that one. It's gonna be fascinating if that works. But Post Malone might want to worry about Chemicals sliding down to 40. Then there's Calling by Metro Boomin, Sway Lee, Nav, and A Boogie with the Hoodie down to 88. And Attention by Doja Cat slid down to 80. Hate to say I called that one. Now for the rest, Daylight by David Kushner fell to 69. Good. Fight the Feeling by Rod Wave slid down to 95. See You Again by Tyler the Creator and Kali Uchis slid down to 90. And Waffle House by the Jonas Brothers fell to 85. Kind of a shame with that last one. It's actually grown on me more than it probably should have. Now for our returns and gains, of which there were no gains. And the returns wound up as Everything I Love by Morgan Wallen clawing back to 83 thanks to a newfound radio push, and Part Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus at number 50, because apparently we're now just going to allow 4th of July songs to get a resurgence on the Hot 100 like all the other holidays. But alright, fine. The main story here is the Lil Uzi Vert album bomb, where they got 18 new songs to chart. That means under my rules, for 12 songs and over, we're only focusing on the top 20 or the best or worst of the week to make this a much more reasonable episode. Hell, I already reviewed the album. If you like more thoughts, please check that out on my main channel. Links over there. But outside of that group, that Fiya at 93, Zoom at 92, Werewolf would Bring Me the Horizon at 81, Died and Came Back at 78, All Alone at 76, Amped at 67, Mama I'm Sorry at 65, Pluto to Mars at 60, X2 at 53, Crush 'Em at 52, Spin Again at 51, I Got at 49, A with Travis Scott at 31, and Suicide Doors at 25. That one very nearly got the honorable mention if they were able to get away from some of the defensiveness. We'll get into that later. But alright, now on for a much more reasonable, if still wildly uneven list. Unfortunately, starting with number 94, We Didn't Start the Fire by Fall Out Boy. Okay, time to admit something monumentally embarrassing. I used to really like We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. It's cooled significantly on me in recent years. It's a novelty song at best, insufferably catchy, and the central argument of the song that the average person doesn't really have much power to impact world events because that's a fire that's burned forever and they tried to fight it but nothing really worked. It's such a product of its era in 1989. To say nothing of the bizarrely wonky production, but okay, it's just a little bit gross, it's dated. But what I think makes it all so much worse are all the garbage fan parodies that proliferated on YouTube for over a decade, where it's less about actually making a point and more about the hackneyed rhyming, because most people cannot match Billy Joel even at his worst. So, in the grand example of the Hot 100 being infuriating in 2023, we didn't actually get any songs from Fall Out Boy's comeback release this year, but another painfully cheap rewrite of this goddamn song that doesn't even get the central gimmick that the events have to be in chronological order. What's galling is that there are parts of this that don't suck. The production might actually be a little better courtesy of Neil Avron. There is some explicit callbacks to the original, if you pay attention, that are kinda clever. I like the change on the hook where Fall Out Boy wanna say that they are indeed still fighting that fire. And you can tell that Patrick Stump, Pete Wentz, they actually care way more about this than they probably should. It doesn't feel like Weezer covering Africa for the memes. Nobody was asking for this. But that's the point. Nobody was asking for another fucking cover of We Didn't Start the Fire, and a badly written version of it at that, where the fans don't even seem like they're on board. So yeah, this is terrible. It's gonna wind up on a lot of worst songs of 2023 lists by publications that are not trying that hard. At least in this case though, hard to disagree. Number 71, Nakamura by Lil Uzi Vert. See, a cut like this is entirely where I understand Lil Uzi Vert's appeal, with a very liberal sample of wrestler Shinsuke Nakamura's theme music to ramp up the bombast off that filthy guitar to open up with the strings and the crowd noise and the trap percussion, with Uzi just in pure flexing mode with all the hedonism and aggression. This is built for the stadiums or for the festivals, or hell, the WWE again, when Lil Uzi Vert inevitably gets called back. Now, I won't say I love it. Uzi's bars are still flimsy as all hell, and I think this production could get a little bit more textured and aggro to really stick the landing for me. It's a bit too mushy for my taste, but in my opinion, this is probably the best song on the album. I'm gonna stick up for this. Check it out. Number 70, Patience by Lil Uzi Vert featuring Don Toliver.
I don't know if you really in love with me now. Why must you fall in love?
I've always had mixed opinions on Lil Uzi Vert's more melancholic mid-tempo songs, mostly because they often can't maintain a consistent tone in the writing. So calling me surprised that this is one of the cases where it kinda works, where Lil Uzi Vert doesn't really know if this person is really in love with them given how faded they are from the drugs, of which they also seem to be confessing some form of love, which only highlights how messy all this is. And that runny, auto-tuned smear somehow comes together for me, between the shuddering glimmer glimmer and the grimy synths, the whirring trap hi-hats, and Don Toliver just belting out all over the song. The angst feels remarkably tangible from Uzi, and considering how plastic and shallow they usually can be, I appreciated a moment that felt at least a little bit more honest. So yeah, you know what? I think this is pretty good too. Give it a shot. Number 57, Mojabi Ghost by Tainy and Bad Bunny.
No sé a quién le miento, si esto que siento no me deja dormir.
So, reggaeton Latin pop fans, help me out here. Where is Tainy's stock hovering these days? He's been very active as a producer in the scene for a while, but while he is credited first on this song from his new album, if it wasn't for the Bad Bunny cosign, I don't imagine this would chart. And I think that's kind of a shame, because this isn't really a stock reggaeton song at all, but something closer to 80s synth pop, with the watery, borderline vaporwave synths and the padded groove. Hell, when you factor in Bad Bunny playing for a darker smolder, going out and partying to get away from his feelings around someone, and all those who are then trying to chase his fame that he's even further disillusioned by. Honestly, kind of reminds me a lot of The Weeknd's formula and a lot of his recent pop crossovers, and that's a compliment. There's actually a pretty decent hook here. I'm not sure it really fully sticks. It feels a little weedy, it's missing that added bit of swell to really put it over the top, but it actually is more interesting than I expected. Pretty good stuff. Give it a shot. Number 43, TULUM by Peso, Pluma and Grupo Frontera. Why did I expect this to debut higher on the Hot 100 this week, even going against Lil Uzi Vert's album bomb? Well, truth be told, it probably should have broken through last week. It is on Genesis, it's arguably one of the bigger name collabs there, but then I heard the song and I understood why, because that filmy acoustic guitar sounds like garbage. Kind of a shame, because there are parts around this song that probably could have worked. I like Grupo Frontera bringing in more accordion to flesh out the melody. They've got good chemistry together and balance with Peso Pluma. The percussion in the bass line feels a little bit more textured and intricate. And then I translated the lyrics. And this is a song where they're trying to convince this girl to dump their guy because apparently she's the best thing on the menu and food gets cold if neglected. I'm assuming the translation isn't really that bad, but my god, this is nowhere near as romantic as they think it is. The tone just feels off. So, yeah, not a fan of this one. I'll pass. Number 20, Endless Fashion by Lil Uzi Vert featuring Nicki Minaj.
I can't take no loss. I rock on your own wannabes, I got no heart. I put endless to denim rims on my car.
Here's the thing. It's not the Eiffel 65 sample that pissed me off the most with this. We certainly didn't need someone else going over that territory again after David Guetta and Baby Rexha had their hit, but that song they had was a leftover from 2017. I get why someone thought this could be novel now. Hell, by slowing it down and blurring into a trap flip with the melody integrated in the keys, primarily carried in the vocal line, it at least feels kind of different, even if the bass mixing is rough and the instrumental still feels really clunky. Shame this is a song heavily reliant on perhaps Nicki Minaj's worst performance all goddamn year, and that is saying something. The most notable line sung over the hook is, "I got a Republican doctor, made my ass great again, MAGA," which is so cringeworthy I think Tom McDonald would reject it, but Nicki's verse is shockingly bad. Her flow is jerky, the brand name flexing is painfully basic, she misgenders Uzi on their own song, and to top it off, the line that her people will blow like Virgil. I'm assuming it means blow up because otherwise, wow, way to disrespect a dead icon in fashion alongside mentioning Karl Lagerfeld a few lines earlier. You should know better, Nicki. If she bragged about writing this verse in a day and really struggling with it, I can tell. Uzi is not trying that hard, thankfully comes off a little better, and by that I mean a splatter painting of brand names and accusing other rappers of trying to jack their swag. Outside of the Chop Suey cover that thankfully did not chart this week, this is the worst song on Pink Tape. This is what actually blows. Let's move on. Number 11, Flooded the Face by Lil Uzi Vert.
It was just hard, now my life grew. Now that little girl gonna do what I said. Diamond like lake, water like sink, pocket on rings, pull up and tank, pull up and cool. Who on a race, smoking that gas, drop in the birds.
Alright, the opening track on Pink Tape, and not one I really like, mostly because Lil Uzi Vert was really trying to get in front of any gay rumors that I don't think they really needed to address. Idiots equating sexuality and gender are not worth their time, but Uzi really wants to make a point of overcompensating by fucking all of your bitches, and then piling on all the brand names, the guns, and the debauchery. I mean, in that lane, it's not bad, outside of that dumb water-like sink line on the hook, where they sound weirdly a lot like Travis Scott in a vocal tone I like. This is a song that's trying to sound imperious and bombastic with the hollowed out sample and the crisp trap percussion. That's actually pretty well balanced for once, and that works probably more the less you think about it. So not among my favorites from the album, not the worst thing ever. It's alright. And finally, number 1, Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo.
Sucker, fame fucker, bleeding me dry like a goddamn vampire.
After how successful Sour was in 2021, I knew that Olivia Rodrigo would have momentum going into this song. Hell, after as much as I like Driver's License and Good For You, I was excited to hear Vampire. The sophomore project is make or break for a lot of young pop stars. It has been for decades. And thus with this song, gotta be honest, I'm less impressed with this than I wanna be. Part of Olivia Rodrigo's charm is a balancing act between more grounded and detailed Gen Z teenage framing and pop theatricality. Now that balance is always kind of unstable, but Vampire definitely tilts into full-on melodrama, ripping into this ex that broke her heart, playing him off as a fame-hungry vampire, using her to advance his own career. Now this has sparked a lot of comparisons to Billie Eilish on her last album, but I'm not sure it really fits. It's closer to Christina Perri's Jar of Hearts, where if this song is stuck as a pure piano ballad, I'd say it falls into a lot of that song's same traps. But then we build to this Creeper-esque piano rock build that feels very off-Broadway, and that's sadly indicative of the production as well, that once again cannot deliver the impact you would want to go for broke with all those buzzy synths and shuffling percussion that really needs a thicker low-end groove. Now again, I don't think this is bad per se. I like how Olivia Rodrigo highlights this dude preys on younger girls, cause those his age might know better. And Rodrigo certainly commits to the high melodrama in her delivery and lyricism that still unfortunately has a couple clunky edges. But you know what, as a sucker for this sort of play, the fact that it doesn't fully work while she's still feeling like she's sitting in Taylor Swift's shadow, that's more concerning to me. I'm more warm to this than I want to be, probably more than I should be, but it's not among her best. If I'm being real, it might grow on me, who knows? But that ends our week, where it might be a bit contentious to say this, but I think Lil Uzi Vert is getting the top 2 spots, with Nakamura as the best of the week and Patience with Don Toliver as the honorable mention. Not to worry, they're still getting the worst of the week here too, with Endless Fashion by Nicki Minaj, which just pissed me off so much, with dishonorable mention going to that stupid-ass remake of We Didn't Start the Fire by Fall Out Boy, where despite so many things that go wrong, I cannot dislike it as much as I want to. Call it some lingering nostalgia for the original. Now next week, I was gonna say the fallout for all this, but then I remembered we got Speak Now Taylor's version and that album bomb to look forward to. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.